We're getting a closer look into the contents of private communications between President Trump and one of his closest aides, now raising questions about the potential national security ramifications. Letters published in full for the first time by the Daily Beast show staffer Natalie Harp writing to the president in 2023, and I'm quoting now, "You are all that matters to me," end quote. And also this, "I don't want to ever let you down," end quote. She also reportedly tells President she is, quote, unworthy of him. CNN has not independently confirmed that Harp wrote or sent the letters to the president, but the contents are prompting concerns about the broader implications of the very close relationship between Harp and the president, viewed by some in the White House as a gatekeeper of President Trump and the most powerful man in the world. Let's go live right now to CNN White House correspondent Elena Treen. She's working the story for us. What more can you tell us, Elena, about these letters and how the Trump administration is responding?
Yeah, look, Wolf, I mean, we've heard some details of some of these, experts that have been reported by the New York Times and other outlets. But I think what's interesting about these is that we are seeing them in full for the first time. I should note they are from 2023. And they're, of course, very personal. I will read you some more of the excerpts from these letters that were published by the Daily Beast. One of them reads, quote, "I didn't have to be human printer. I could take time to enjoy good conversation and still get all my work done at the end of the day. In fact, I even had time to take long morning and evening walks to enjoy each sunrise and sunset, though I did forget to eat and sleep." Another reads, "Please, when I fail, will you tell me? You have the absolute right to cuss me out if need be, when I deserve it, because no one knows or cares about me more." To modify a classic, it goes on to say, "I could not have parted with you to anyone less worthy. And I will add, it is I who is unworthy." So clearly, very personal in these letters. And I think what's important, some important context to note here, Wolf, is just how deep the connection between Natalie Harp and the president is. And remind our viewers that she has credited the president with saving her life. She has said in the past that she had suffered from bone cancer and that she believes that it was the president's 2018 legislation that he had signed that she credits with allowing her to receive experimental treatments. We don't know what those treatments are. She has never said what they are, but I think that gives you some insight into why she feels such total loyalty toward the president. Now, I will say, the White House said in a statement earlier this week, this is from their spokesman, Davis Ingle, he said, quote, that Natalie Harp is, quote, one of the most loyal and hardest working aides on President Trump's team. I should note that was from Tuesday. We have reached out to the White House again for additional comment on these letters being published in full. But again, a very important, I think, relationship that we're really seeing come to light more so this week, ever since Senator Jon Ossoff, a Democrat, had made comments about Harp and how she travels with the president often. That spurred a lot of reaction from the White House. Some, again, like this White House statement, pointing out how loyal and hardworking she is. Some of them, though, were far more aggressive and sharp in their defense of Harp. And one thing I've actually picked up, Wolf, in some of my conversations with people here at the White House this week is that some of those more aggressive posts defending Harp actually had the adverse effect of drawing more attention to this relationship and dragging the story out, I think, into the public view in a bigger way. And so I think for now they've kind of tried to move away from that. And I think likely we're going to continue to see kind of this one statement that's been circulating be the word from the White House for now.
All right, Elena Treen reporting for us. Elena, thank you very, very much. Pamela.
All right, joining us now in the Situation Room is Maggie Haberman. She's a White House correspondent for the New York Times and the co-author of the best-selling book, Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump with Jonathan Swan. Maggie, it's so great to have you on the show. Regime Change introduced us to Natalie Harp. For a lot of people, it was the very first time they learned about her. So remind our viewers about her power in President Trump's White House and what the details from these letters demonstrate to you.
So one of the things that Jonathan and I reported in the book was, yes, Natalie Harp, it was so devotional to him that, she would write these letters. They We had looked at the letters, we'd obtained them, they had and reviewed them. These were in 2023, as Elena said, but she was going into the White House with him, and he would tell people in the 4 years out of power, 3 some odd that she worked for him, that, she was the only person among his staff who loved him as much as his wife and children. And he would say, all of the rest of you will go off and make money. She will never leave me. And so that tells you about how much he values loyalty. It tells you how much that he values somebody who, he will be a constant supplier of good news. There is a reason that the human printer nickname that she refers to in her own letter that Elena just read, that was coined by people working for the president, because Natalie Harp has been a controversial figure inside his world for a while. And I understand the White House is upset now about focus on her, but this is coming in part because of people around the president have been concerned, including the Secret Service during those 4 years out of office. But she does fill a role that he wants. She handles a lot of his social media. She is a channel by which outsiders can bypass existing systems to get to him, and vice versa, where he can reach out to other people. That does include, in some cases, foreign leaders. That's the role she serves.
Our colleague, Aaron Burnett, interviewed Natalie Harp's estranged brother earlier this week and asked for his view of some of your reporting for regime change. Listen to this.
What do you think it is about her? What do you make of how much the president relies on her? We've learned a lot, from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swann's new book, we've learned, about his incredible reliance on her at all hours of the day to post social media posts, just as one example.
Yeah. I think that Trump's best friends are people who are his fan club, and so she's his biggest fan. And so that's probably why he likes her.
So what's your assessment of that? Is it that simple?
I think that's a lot of it, yes, Wolf. There's nothing else that goes beyond that in our reporting. Trump, as I think we've all watched over a long period of time, likes to have sycophants around. It doesn't mean exclusively, but that has gotten more pronounced. And devotion is the coin of the realm in his world and in his larger orbit. She is the most pronounced example of it that I can see in recent years. And I think the other piece too, Wolf, is she doesn't have, that we know of, and according to people we've spoken to in the president's world over several years now, she doesn't really do much outside of work. She works constantly for him. That is something that he has a huge amount of value in. I described her the other day as a binky, for lack of a better way of putting it. It's a comfort blanket. There are men who have played that role for him too. One of them would be Boris Epstein, about whom, his lead legal advisor, of whom the president describes him as his psychiatrist and says, sometimes you just want somebody to tell you everything is going to be okay. That is a lot of what the president values.
When I mentioned that there potentially could be national security concerns, I was referring to the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, Maggie, that she does not have top secret security clearances, even though world leaders were occasionally calling her to try to set up a phone conversation with the president.
So our understanding is that she does have a security clearance. We haven't independently corroborated that she was delayed on her SF-86 forms to get a longer term one. She came in our reporting with a temporary clearance, the way that most other people working in the White House did. I think, look, the president speaks on a cell phone that is, like everybody has the number, as we've discussed many, many times. That includes world leaders, that includes a bunch of people, and, we don't quite know exactly how secure that phone is. I think that the bigger issue that people have had about concerns is just her level of intense devotion to him, and that was what became a question for the Secret Service in 2022 and I believe part of 2023. I just want to make one other point, Wolf, and Elena was talking about this, that the White House now seems to be realizing that they helped elevate attention around Natalie Harp by pushing back on Jon Ossoff and going further than what Ossoff had said about their relationship themselves. That is absolutely true. But there's also, the way a president's world functions, and this, who is around him, who helps provide him information. That is going to be of interest and importance in any administration. She's a government employee. It should not be a surprise.